The air inside this reclaimed substation hangs heavy with ozone and the faint, sweet decay of old paper, a ghost scent clinging to the patched leather of the console. Dust motes dance in the single neon tube, casting a wound-like glow over hand-labeled vinyl. The war surplus transmitter's low hum is a heartbeat against the silence of dead server racks, standing like forgotten sentinels.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
Across Singapore, the dial sits at 86 Fahrenheit under overcast. Winds are moving from the north-northeast at 5 miles per hour. Welcome, architects of the airwaves, to TogeeVision. Out here, the dial sits at 86 Fahrenheit under overcast Singapore skies. North-northeast winds drift at 5 miles per hour. Today, we're building from the inside out, framing our own sovereignty, where self-worth is the foundation, not the facade. We're dissecting how external forces challenge our inner and civic architectures, from besieged communities to urban planning and political leadership.
Today's currents reveal systems under stress where basic access, local autonomy, and effective governance are being redefined. We're tracking specific flashpoints that expose the human cost of these structural shifts, demanding sharp discernment.
From ancient tales of resilience against siege to modern battles for urban space, the narratives of sovereignty and self-determination echo across time and place. Who carries these stories forward? The communities fighting for them, ensuring the lineage holds against erosion.
Exactly. When the system demands a piece of you for basic access, or when higher powers override local design, it's less about service and more about control. There's a different game to play here, bending the rules to reveal better systems that honor consent and dignity.
That's the real test, building resilient inner and civic architectures that champion consent, provenance, and dignity. Let's dive into our first vector. In Khosrow West Bank, the arrival of UN aid highlights the stark tension between humanitarian necessity and the deliberate strangulation of communities.
The facts are grim. Hundreds of Palestinian families in Khusra, specifically 80 households, have endured critical shortages of food and medical supplies for weeks due to access restrictions imposed by Israeli authorities. This engineered scarcity, including the cutting off of water and electricity lines by settlers, directly exposes children and the elderly to heightened malnutrition and preventable illness, eroding their basic right to survival and denying their architectural self-worth.
This isn't just a delivery, it's a reiteration of the ancient tale of the siege, where the very act of survival becomes an act of defiance. It's a thread woven into the fabric of resilience, like a single olive tree against a harsh wind, ensuring the community's story is carried by every shared aid parcel. The provenance of their struggle is undeniable.
And the psychological toll on these families, beyond the physical deprivation, is immense. It's a calculated erosion of their inner architecture, forcing a reliance that strips away autonomy. What kind of signal does that send globally? That basic human dignity is conditional.
Patching in a caller, the skeptic. You're on the signal.
This aid is a band-aid. What's the real cost of letting this situation fester beyond the immediate suffering? Who pays for the sustained blockade and then the intermittent, insufficient UN response? Does the international community or the occupying power bear no actual burden for the architectural failure here?
Your point on systemic cost is sharp, caller. Regarding the Khusra situation, one viable alternative path is establishing permanent, internationally monitored humanitarian corridors, ensuring consistent aid flow beyond immediate UN deliveries and dismantling the infrastructure of scarcity. The chosen next move, however, focuses on bolstering international legal frameworks for humanitarian access, leveraging UN resolutions to demand unhindered civilian protection for these besieged families, emphasizing the principle of consent in aid delivery. This dynamic of controlled scarcity and reactive aid connects directly to our next signal, where civic autonomy clashes with centralized power, this time in Ontario. From the West Bank, we shift focus to Ontario, where a top court ruling just declared the province free to axe Toronto bike lanes, creating a seismic rift in urban governance and local consent. The signal is a commons, clarity keeps it honest, One claim, one proof, one test, then pass the mic. Patching in a caller. Go ahead.
So, the province can just wipe out years of city planning and investment. Who actually benefits from this? Is it just political posturing, or are there real economic benefits for someone beyond punishing Toronto for trying to be green? What about the cost of increased congestion or healthcare from less active citizens?
Hold that thread. Next signal. Monday briefing. What can Andy Burnham learn from? Our final vector today takes us from local infrastructure battles to the grand architecture of leadership. What can Andy Burnham, Mayor of Greater Manchester, learn from Spain's Pedro Sanchez?
The analysis suggests Sanchez's success stems from his shrewd negotiation of regional identities within a complex federal system, allowing him to push through progressive social policies like the minimum living income, impacting 2.3 million Spaniards, and pioneering labor reforms. Burnham, facing similar central government resistance and a deeply centralized UK political structure, is exposed to the challenge of translating regional ambition into tangible power for Greater Manchester's 2.8 million residents, requiring sharp discernment to adapt rather than merely imitate.
This isn't just about policy transfer. It's about the archetype of the regional champion navigating the national labyrinth. Sanchez, like a master weaver, blends local threads into a national tapestry, giving voice to diverse autonomies. Burnham seeks to learn how to keep Manchester's unique pattern vibrant without being absorbed or erased by Westminster's centralized authority, ensuring the provenance of its regional identity.
The core lesson here is how to assert unwavering autonomy within a larger, often resistant structure. Sanchez built his political capital by challenging the status quo, by integrating regional demands as legitimate structural vectors, rather than treating them as rival powers. This is about building inner confidence in regional self-worth.
If it doesn't travel, it didn't land. Frame the why, the who, and the now, then let the street remix it. Signal coming in.
So, Burnham should just copy Sanchez? Spain has a vastly different political landscape and a different constitution. What's the risk of trying to force a Spanish solution onto a British problem? Couldn't he alienate local voters by looking outwards instead of focusing on Manchester's specific needs and provenance?
Copy that, bringing it back to the main thread.
That's a critical point, caller. A direct copy-paste would be naive. The risk lies in overlooking the historical context of devolution in the UK, which is far less established than Spain's quasi-federal system. Burnham needs to translate principles, not policies verbatim.
The myth isn't about cloning the hero. It's about understanding the strategy of the hero. Sanchez embodies the spirit of regional advocacy. Burnham needs to channel that spirit into a uniquely Mancunian and British context, integrating logic and emotion specific to his region.
Precisely. The goal isn't imitation, but inspiration for strategic architecture. Burnham's self-worth as a leader comes from serving Manchester, not from being a mini Sanchez. Discernment means separating the universal principles of decentralized power from the specific cultural applications.
That discernment is key, caller. The chosen next move for Burnham isn't blind imitation. It's about strategic adaptation. His team could establish a direct policy exchange with Sanchez's advisors on specific decentralization models, like Spain's regional health autonomy or fiscal powers, and then pilot a tailored version within Greater Manchester, focusing on consent and proven effectiveness. A viable alternative would be for Burnham to instead focus entirely on a northern powerhouse coalition, building a unified front of UK regional leaders to demand greater fiscal devolution from Westminster, creating a new structural vector for collective regional autonomy. The faint scent of burned resistors drifts from the auxiliary panel, a reminder of constant improvisation. Whether it's the imposed scarcity in Kusra, the provincial override in Toronto, or the quest for effective regional leadership in Manchester, the constant is the pressure on foundational autonomy. True sovereignty isn't granted. It's built, brick by brick, through persistent action and clear-eyed discernment, favoring consent and dignity in every structural vector.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
Continue the signal at TogeeVision.com, tune in, Sparks and Stories, Gig Passport.